I gotta wait. How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
Welcome to the stand, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
I'm Dreme, a black woman with many beautiful interconnecting identities. A few I will name at this moment as we get started on this podcast journey together. A Bostonian, born and raised in the inner city, Dorchester and Roxbury neighborhoods, to a teenage single mother who has my whole heart. An educator, I've been working with youth and children since my teenage years, and formally, I have been teaching almost a decade now. That's wild to think about. An entrepreneur, I am the founder of The Chair, a black and brown centered tech platform dedicated to supporting people on their hair journey, where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a more joyous experience. I have a workable site, my prototype. It took me 2 years to build, and now I'm on this adventure that you're currently on with me. My goal for this podcast is to share stories, black stories, educator stories, entrepreneurship stories, and hair stories. I want you to leave each episode with the opportunity to gain new insight, just a glimpse into my world or the worlds that are featured on my podcasts, a little chuckle during your day or night, possibly a little anger to encourage you to advocate for justice, and hope to continue learning and dreaming. So come in and listen to the beautiful voices in the chair as they share their stories, starting with me.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Serene. Serene, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Serene. I am a mom of 2 little ones and a wife, and I like to read in my spare time. And during the school year, I am also a teacher, 6th grade language arts and social studies. I'm not a very good gardener, but I like to try. And I'm afraid of bugs. I do not like spiders or ants.
Serene and I met at grad school. We
did.
were both at UCLA in the teacher education program. And one of the first memories I have of you, we were in one of our classes and we had to build houses out of toothpicks. And me and you were in the same group.
The
And
best group, obviously.
and I was stressed out about this activity and you were not. You were just creating and having a good time while I'm like, this needs to stand, this needs to this. And you're like, it's fine, it's gonna be fine. And the whole point of the activity was to just highlight how even though the only rule was to build a house, how every group's house was different. And it was the beginning conversation of the semester of thinking about our language translates differently to every kid in the room.
Yep.
So,
I have no memory of this activity. Obviously, I was not stressed at all about it.
No, I think it was just such the beginning because Serene has just this relaxed demeanor about her that I was like, how can someone have this relaxed demeanor and be prepared to teach? So that was my first introduction of really thinking about how you can be prepared but not have to be stressed or overwhelmed. So Serene, did you always want to get into education?
No, definitely not. I studied psych in college for my undergrad and thought for a little while that I was going to be a therapist. And then I realized probably after longer than I should have that I would make a really bad therapist because I think that when the people around me are struggling and having a hard time, I feel like I take on some of the emotional burden myself, and being in therapy would literally be the worst place for someone like that to be, which I actually told my therapist because it's something I'm still working on, is trying to keep those things separate. So I definitely went into teaching. I don't know if by accident is the right word, but I got to my senior year and was like, I got to do something next year. What's it going to be? And I decided to apply for grad school for teaching or education and just to see what was up with that. And that's how I ended up in the classroom. I think sometimes I'm still not sure if this is what I'm supposed to be doing in the long term, but I'm doing okay right now.
Do you have memories of what education was look like in your college experience? Because I remember you telling me, and I was fangirling over how Dr. Angela Davis teaches at your university. One.
Yes.
And so when you said that, I said, did you take every single one of her classes? What were you doing in your free time? Were you in her office? These were the things that I was wondering about. But did those things influence you into conversations with education?
I think it did. I had one professor in particular that I don't know if took an interest in me is the right word, but really took me under her wing. My first 2 years of college, I feel like I really struggled emotionally, and that obviously bled into my academic performance.
Mm.
And my first 2 years, I feel like I don't know if lost is the right word, but I would say that I was more treading water than anything else.
Mm.
And then I started to talk to my professors about what I was dealing with and what I was going through. And one of my professors, she had how do I explain it? So Santa Cruz is broken up into 10 colleges, right? So you have the university at large. There's like, your academic departments, but there's residential colleges, I guess you would call it. So when you move into like your dorms, right, you live in a college. Each college has a sister college. So there's 10 colleges, and then like 2 of them are paired with each other because they're close in proximity and have similar themes or whatever. I started in Stevenson, and our sister college was Cowell. And the professor that I really worked a lot with was actually the provost of Cowell College. And through Cowell College, they offered these really small seminars. And so I ended up taking some of those with her and then got to know her. And she saved my life in a lot of ways. I don't know that without that kind of guidance that I would have made it all the way through those 4 years. And so just having someone there that was really looking out for me and looking out for my best interests and helping me make connections with other people was just so key to like being able to eventually thrive in my undergrad. But it's funny because I got a D in the first class I took with her. I had to retake it because it was a requirement for my degree.
Mm.
And when she found out I got a D, she's like, Serene, what were you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry. But her name was Faye Crosby, my professor. And she was like a super well-connected, I know psychologist is the right word, in academia in the field of psychology. And so she knew a lot of people. And so as I got to know her through the Cowell College seminars, and she got to know me, and she knew how interested I was in psychology, specifically social psychology. She ended up connecting me with a lot of like, other psychologists. She'd be telling me, take this class with this professor, or when other psychologists would come or professors would come from like other universities, they would come from Stanford because Stanford wasn't too far away. She would like have them over to her house for dinner and then like invite little old me to come join all these like big names and like whose studies I would read about in my books and whose books I had on my shelves. And then obviously I would make them sign all my books because I was a big nerd like that. It was really cool to have someone who was so well connected really guiding me during that time. And I spent a lot of time with her in her home because she hosted a lot of classes and she was the provost of her home was on campus. And so it was just, I think that's really how I spent a lot of my time in the last 2 years was spending time with Faye, having dinners at her house with all these really famous psychologists, just learning from her, like what I think it means to be an educator in like the true sense. Like it wasn't just about what we were doing in the classroom, but she really, I don't know if got to know me would even be the right way to say it, but she saw me and used all the tools at her disposal to like give me what I needed to start to branch out and grow and thrive. And then by the time I hit my senior year, not that it's like super important, but I ended up transferring to Cowell College because I knew that when I crossed the stage, because each college has their own graduation ceremony. It's not one big university graduation. Mm-hmm. And then when you cross the stage, you shake the hand with the provost, and then you get your whatever, and you like go on your merry way. I knew that she was the one I wanted to shake hands with when I crossed the stage. So I ended up transferring into Cowell so I could have that moment with her. And it was really important to me.
I don't think that's an insignificant moment.
No.
At all. I think when you talk about, I applied to UCLA because I wanted to try this education thing out, that could seem really frivolous. But if you don't hear the story about Dr. Faye, then you really don't know the intensity of what education can do. It wasn't about the books. It was how she made you feel.
Yeah. And it was funny because when I was getting closer to graduating and like There was one of the professors, I loved taking his class, but I don't know if I'd call him a great professor. I did end up starting to going to his office hours because he was so brilliant and I just wanted to pick his brain about psychology. And when he found out I was graduating and going to UCLA for education and not pursuing a psych degree, he's like, dude, you're like wasting your time. You should be going into psychology. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see about that later. But I don't know. I think I made the right call so far.
There's something that I think about often is when people are like, well, you chose to pursue a higher degree in something else that wasn't your undergrad major, like you wasted your time. I completely disagree with that. I think
no, absolutely.
You still learn. It comes with you. It shows up in different ways. It's manipulated how you approach the world, different problems, how you think about things because you started in a specific medium.
Yeah. And I think psychology and education are so closely linked. So obviously, there's the field of educational psychology. But when I was in Santa Cruz, I was most interested in social psychology, which really looks at the ways groups of people interact with each other. Mm-hmm. And individuals interact with each other. When I went into UCLA for education, I know that a lot of the things that I had learned in undergrad helped me understand the stuff we were learning at UCLA better, even though it wasn't necessarily the same field. But I mean, you can also make the argument for reading books just because I'm not reading teacher books all the time or how to teach reading or whatever. All the stuff that I'm reading, I absorb it and it helps me be more creative when I do go into the classroom or I have to connect ancient world history into the modern day. It gives me ideas for themes and these connections that I can make. So it's not just useless to not be all education all the time. Like you said, you just bring all these different parts of you and the things that you learn with you wherever you go.
I 100% agree with that because I think about my undergrad degree is in sociology, anthropology, and American studies. Mm-hmm. And I remember my first year where I was really into education and my education professor at the time, she was like, do you want to be a teacher? I was like, no. She said, don't major in education. She said, don't major in education because it's going to limit your thought process. She said, explore. She said, maybe you'll come back to it. In my senior year, I knocked on her door and said, hey, I'm going to apply to this program out in California. Can you help me write my personal statement? And she goes, all right, you came back around. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So I thought I think about that a lot in terms of even having that background, then getting the master's at UCLA and then deciding to go to business school. People were like, what the hell are you doing in business school? I was like, hey, I have this thought. And they're like, you don't have any business background? I said, no, but I have this thought.
Well, that's how you get your background. Yeah. Is you learn.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Look, it's my commercial. We will be right back.
It's more than just a bad hair day. It's a journey. Finding the right hairstyle isn't easy, nor is finding the right stylist or the right products. Looking in every corner of the web gets messy, overwhelming, and exhausting. All the ads, the articles, the products, the videos, it shouldn't be this hard, but it is. And now, it isn't. The Chair. A black and brown centered platform where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a new, joyful path on your hair journey. Avoid the clutter, save yourself hours, months, and even years of research and poor trial and error. Everything you need and only what you need is in one place. Hairboards made by people like you, for you. Find the right products, the right people, the right answers for you, stress-free. Join the Chair community and make every day a great hair day. When you share your pain, you allow others to help you. And when you share your success, you help others get theirs. Lean on the Chair. We got you. No stress, no strife. In the chair. The chair. The chair. All right.
So, Serene, what keeps you in education today?
Dream, I ask myself that question every day. And I've been thinking about it. And I don't know if I have an answer for you. I think that right now, if we're being super honest, financial stability is a big one. I like knowing that I have a job that cannot be replaced with a machine. A machine can't do what I do in the classroom. I know that. I think that more romantically, I think that I like the opportunity to be creative. Obviously, we have the curriculum or whatever the standards and stuff we're supposed to cover. I feel like I'm able to, at least in my school side, I'm able to bring my own twist to what we do. In my classroom, we do use the curriculum that they give us, but when I shape out the units or the things, I feel like I'm able to pull from the things that I am learning about outside of the classroom. And I think that having that freedom keeps me at my school site specifically, because I know that not every teacher has the luxury to be able to play with the curriculum in the ways that I do. And I know that when I was growing up in language arts classes and social studies classes, I hated it. If you had told the little sixth grade strain that this is what I was going to be doing when I got older, I would have thought you were an insane person, because I was like, no way. Like, I hate this. I didn't like reading out of the book and answering the questions. And I'm like, why does it matter who went to war with who 1,000 billion years ago? It wasn't important to me. And so when I got this position teaching history, specifically in the middle school level, I really wanted to find a way to make it, I don't know if matter is the right word, but make it matter. I didn't want my kids to always be asking, why does any of this matter? Because one of the things that I like to do in social studies in particular is to tie each civilization that we study. Like, I focus on a specific aspect of it, because another thing that I feel like I learned as an adult looking at the curriculum at large is a lot of the civilizations had a lot of stuff in common with each other. And so instead of learning the same grapes, the government, the religion, the agriculture, the whatever, for every single one of these, we just focus on one aspect for each civilization. And then I try and figure out, how do I tie that to what does our world look like today? And so I remember last year when our first unit, I don't remember, who did we study in the first unit? Maybe not the first unit, Miss Dreme, because I do not remember what we did in our first unit, because it has been a whole year since we did that. So I will tell you the last thing I remember teaching them before I went on maternity leave, which was the radishes. We had a day. We were studying farming and agriculture in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. And in order to tie it to today, I thought about it for a long time. And we ended up planting 60 cups worth of radish seeds. I had no idea if it was going to work. I still had no idea if it was going to work, because they all took them home at the end, right before I left for Thanksgiving break, and I never saw them again. So I'm not sure how it turned out. But there were sprouts. Everybody had sprouts, and the kids went nuts. We got to talk about, what do plants need to survive? What did the people back then need in order for their crops to be able to grow? And my kids, we watered them every day. And every week we checked on them. We measured them. We talked about, are they growing? Are they not growing? And my kids on their end of unit, not reflection, but the assessment, I asked them questions about, what did you learn about living back then? And a lot of them are like, man, if I had to grow all my own food, I would literally starve. Because growing food is really hard and it takes a lot of time. And I'm like, oh, there we go. Lesson learned, guys. You need to have good climate. You need to have access to cold water. You need to make sure your crops are not going to get disease, that they're not going to get eaten by all the ants in our classroom. There was a lot of things that these farmers needed in order for their crops to survive and support a whole society. Doing stuff like that, I never got that experience when I was younger. And even though, sure, the defined details of what crops did the ancient Egyptians grow or what exactly was their climate, in the end, it doesn't really matter. What I want my kids to take away are those bigger ideas of what does it mean for our world today? Because all of that other stuff that's in the book, that's what Google's for. You can Google it later. There's never been a time where I've needed to know the staple crop of ancient Egypt. I've never needed to know that off the top of my head. And if I ever did, I just pull out my phone and just Google it. That's not the stuff that matters. I want them to take away those big themes. I like that I get to be creative in that way. And so when I'm just living my life and being a person, right now I'm reading about a book called Work Won't Love You Back, because, I'm preparing to go back to work. And I got to remind myself that, I can't be consumed by this job, because I feel like so many teachers are. And I'm trying to be better about setting that professional boundary and the personal boundary. And so I'm reading The Work Won't Love You Back, but I'm thinking about, in my brain, I'm like, later in the year, we're going to be studying about governments. We're going to be studying about economic systems, like the have and have nots. So I'm like, okay, like how do I introduce like anti-capitalism into this unit? I'm not sure yet, but I'm like reading to deepen my own knowledge. And I like knowing that I'll be able to, not everything like I can use, but like usually I can come across something that I've read. I'm like, okay, we can make this 6th grade appropriate and bring it into the classroom. I enjoy that. I like being able to use that knowledge that I just randomly collect. And sometimes it ends up being useful. I guess that's what keeps me in the classroom these days.
Oh, and if you're interested to learn more about my experiences as a Black woman and educator in Guangzhou, China, I wrote my first ebook titled Nowhere and Everywhere, Captured Emotions of a Beautifully Broken Love Story. It is on lulu.com. Take a read and see some beautiful photography of mine. Enjoy the rest of the show. I love teaching history. I didn't fall in love with history until college. And I was like, what? History can be fun. History can be interesting.
It can matter.
It was my Intro to African American Studies class with Professor Judy Dozier, and we had to read Native Son. And so we had to read Native Son, and then we had to create the court scene in class. So everybody was given a role. And the whole point of the exercise was just looking at all the perspectives of different characters, but you took on the character and you're pleading your case while you think like this person should go to jail or this person should be executed. So now we're having this bigger conversation about what do you believe in here? Why do you believe it? Is it your character or is it you? What's the difference? So it was all of our characters, and then we were put in mini groups to be able to have bigger discussions. And then she would keep pulling in these resources from history, being like, hey, this was recently in the news. This happened 70 years ago. And then you'd be like, okay, we're having the same conversation in this timeline. And I was like, this is how I want to teach history. And when I started teaching history to kids, I was like, okay, first thing, it can't be boring. But second, it has to make sense. They have to be able to see themselves in it. So you're talking about the crops. I think about my lesson when I was teaching. I had to teach, we were looking at civil rights era, but specifically looking at caricatures. And so you can, of course, read the definition of Uncle Tom and the Sambo and all these things. You can read those definitions and then you can be like, yeah, I learned them. But I was like, how can and then we'll test them on it. And that's the quiz. And then we move on. Right. And I was like, I want them to really understand this. How does this look today? Yeah. My kids watch TV. They watch YouTube videos. So that's when I was pulling out Disney movies. I was pulling out Disney caricatures. I was pulling them all out. And so we were learning the history and they were like, Miss Dreme, that looks just like, I said, good job, right? And then I was pulling out music videos because I was like, we're going to talk about cultural appropriation today, right? And they're like, I was like, yeah.
Oh my God, Miss Dreme, are we not in a post-racial society?
Yeah.
My parents voted for Obama.
Yeah, valid, right? And so I will always remember I had a kid who came in the class the next day, came in super early, and I was grading some papers or something. And he slams the door, Miss Dreme. I go, yes? He was like, you know what I saw? I said, what'd you see? He was like, I was in the grocery store, and I saw a mammy on the syrup. I can't unsee it. And I was like... He was like, I didn't know it was there. He was like, it's a caricature. I was like, the lesson has been taught. Like, and so moments like that, I was like, this is why I love teaching history, because it becomes so real that it doesn't feel so far.
Yeah.
Thank you, Serene, for sitting in the chair and sharing all of your beautiful stories.
Technically, Miss Dreme.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm sitting on the floor, but I imagine a beautiful chair underneath me. It would be so cozy.
Oh my God.
Do you want to do it again, Dreme? Because I ruined it. I just really wanted to. I was going to play at the beginning and I forgot to tell you that I was sitting on the floor.
No. You know why? Because Everybody can have their own chair. I just said this. A chair can be a bed. It can actually be a pillow. And this tracks because you were always sitting on a floor or a rug in school. So it doesn't even matter. Thank you so much for taking the time out with me.
Anything for you, Dreme. I don't tell you enough how much I value our friendship, but you are so near and dear to my heart always.
Oh, thank you. I truly appreciate that.
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
Thank you for listening to an episode of The Chair. I, of course, would love your continued support. Let me know what you think of this episode by doing all the things. Subscribe, comment, and come back next week, every week. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful day. Or if you are like me, enjoy that moonlight and that one star under all your city lights. Love you. Talk to you later.
The chair.
How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
We support her. Shit.
Do your...
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story. Where we share